Ciao e benvenuti al Tavolo Italiano, into the 11th installment of the video series Tips on Studying Italian. Now that we've covered, starting with some of my philosophies on studying Italian, what I think the biggest mistakes are, putting yourself in a positive environment, not expecting too much, etc. And then covering some of the nuts and bolts of studying Italian, vocabulary, comprehension, practicing, becoming comfortable speaking Italian, etc. I would like to talk about one of the biggest things that can help you achieve what you want to do. This video, I believe, is a secret to keeping you in the game until you've accomplished what you've set out to do. And so what do I mean remembering to enjoy? Exactly as it sounds. You wouldn't believe how many students I've seen get extremely stressed out and frustrated with studying Italian. What started as an adventure, pursuing one's passion, turned into a beast of burden. This is why this lesson is every bit as important as all the others, if not even so more. If you really have a goal in mind, whether it's just to become fluent or be able to order dinner, no matter what that goal is, if you have a goal in mind, you'll never reach it if you quit, basically, excuse me. And if you become too frustrated, you're going to do just that. You're going to quit. How does that happen? Where does the train actually derail? Well, the truth of the matter is, there can be various reasons, but I think it stems from basically a few reasons, more often than not. A brief summary of these reasons are being in a hurry to learn the language, becoming overwhelmed, losing sight of what has been accomplished, and forgetting why we wanted to pursue Italian in the first place. Let's look at these one at a time. Being in a hurry to learn the language. This is particularly true if you want to do more than just order dinner. If you want to really try to master the language to any degree, to become conversational at the very least. We live in a world of instant gratification. So we want to learn Italian now. Well, we can learn how to say a few phrases right now. But let's face it, when you're learning a language, it's like learning about an entire new world, which we'll go into a little bit more further. And to be in a hurry, to be quite honest with you, is a mistake. But that doesn't mean that it can't be enjoyable while it's there. We have to learn to enjoy the journey, to appreciate where we're at now as compared to where we were in the past. If you're in too much of a hurry to learn Italian, if you think you're going to learn it in 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, if your goal is to become conversational, more than likely that's not going to be the case unless you have the time to devote an immense amount of time to it, which most of us do not. We have families and work, etc. The second reason, becoming overwhelmed, is very easy to understand how that can happen. But it doesn't have to be that way. Often when people are studying Italian, they look at everything there is to learn. Everything is new. I mean, you start off by thinking about it's just a matter of learning one word to replace another, and then you quickly find out that that's not the case. The verbs are entirely different than the way they're structured in English. For example, let's just take the verb to eat. In English, conjugation is almost non-existent. All we do is add an S at the third person singular, or he or she. For instance, I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, we eat, you all eat, and they eat. But in Italian, you find out you have to say io mangio, tu mangi, lui lei mangia, noi mangiamo, voi mangiate, e loro mangiano. So you look at the verbs, you look at the prepositions, you find out that the sentence structure is different, the order in which they put the words, and you become overwhelmed. It's like, how am I possibly going to learn all of this? How am I going to remember all this? I can't understand what they're saying, etc., etc., etc. Well, a friend once told me, and I believe I've told you this before, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. The key to conquering this frustration, the key to getting over, being overwhelmed with the immense amount of things that you have to learn, to be honest, is to be focused, to have a path, to work on one thing at a time, and to use it as building blocks. You lay a foundation with pronunciation. Then you lay a little bit more on the foundation with some basic grammar skills, beginning to learn the understanding of the verb system. And you learn a little bit of vocabulary as you go along. That's why I designed the classes that I did, and now am continuing to design more, so that it gives you a path to go down. You don't have to look at everything you have to learn. Just look at what you're working on at that moment, and it becomes a little less overwhelming. The third reason, and I think that this one is very crucial, is losing sight of what has been accomplished. Oftentimes all we look at is what we have to learn. We haven't looked at what we've learned already. And we really should. It's important to put milestones or mile markers down in your path while you're learning Italian. To think about, maybe keep a journal. And in your journal you write down what you learned each time. And after you've been studying Italian for, let's say, 6 months, you go back and you read your early journal entries, what you learned. And they're going to seem ridiculously elementary. You're going to look at that and say, wow, I thought that was worthy of a journal entry. And now it's nothing to me. It's second nature to me. Another thing to do, if you have the availability to do it, most of us do even with our smartphones now, is try to say something in Italian. Come up with the most complex sentence that you can possibly translate into Italian yourself, and make a video of yourself saying it. And then keep that video and intentionally do not look at it again for at least 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months later, even if you put just a little bit of work into your study in Italian at a time, you should be able to look at that and just be amazed that you couldn't say anything more than that just 4 to 6 months ago. You should probably also notice a difference in your pronunciation. If you can see the progress you've made in the past, then you realize the opportunity for the progress that you can make in the future. In fact, your learning can become somewhat exponential, because the brain, like any other muscle, becomes stronger with use. Your ability to memorize and just remember things is going to improve as you study Italian and you go over your vocabulary list and you remember the rules, etc. Not to mention, you now have a foundation in place in which to build. So your learning should be quicker just because of that. The fourth reason, and I think that this is the most important, and I want to spend a little more time on this one, is we forget why we wanted to pursue Italian in the first place. Now, these reasons are as varied as the people that study Italian. But I've met a lot of people who are of Italian descent, whose parents or grandparents were Italian, and they have a desire to learn Italian because they want to be more in touch with their roots. They want to be more in touch with their family history. And so they have an overwhelming desire to study Italian. There are those that love Italy and would like to go back periodically, or maybe just go one time in their life. And they want to be able to converse with people while they're there, or at the very least ask directions and order dinner and understand the responses they get to their questions. No matter what it is, for me, I'm an Irish Polak. I have no Italian roots, and I didn't realize I would have the opportunity to go to Italy as many times as I have. But for me, I just thought it was a beautiful language. And there were aspects of the culture that I really, really liked. That's why I wanted to learn the language. Well, sometimes when we dig into the nuts and bolts of learning the language, and those videos in this series are important as well. I mean, remember, our goal is to learn the language, so we do want to accomplish things. But unfortunately, sometimes in the process of doing the learning, we forget why we wanted to study in the first place. For me, if having a desire to learn it just because it's a beautiful language should drive me to enjoy wherever I'm at in my studies in Italian, because I've learned something that day about a language that I just adore. But oftentimes we don't take the time to just enjoy what it is that we've learned, to appreciate what it is that we've learned. So for whatever reason that you wanted to learn Italian, whether you love all things Italian, whether you want to get in touch with your roots, whatever it is, I encourage you, try to slow down a little bit. What do I mean by that? Do I mean that you should back off your goals? No. Do I mean that you should not try to study as hard as you are? No. What I mean by slow down is slow down your expectations. Calm yourself down. And take time to really look at what you're learning. Because what you're learning is much more than a language. You're going to be learning about a culture. You're going to be learning about an entire new world. The farther you get into your study of Italian, the more about the people and the country and the culture and the traditions that you're going to learn. They're inexplicably intertwined. At some point in time, you just can't distinguish them both. And here are some examples. For example, pronunciation. Right now we just talk about a few sounds. But later on in the course of your study, as you try to refine your pronunciation, get it a little bit better, try to shed a little bit of an American accent, which I've been told, by the way, is impossible, but I don't think it's true. You're going to find out a little more about how they're even used to speaking physically, about muscle movement that comes natural to them. It's not natural to pronounce some of the sounds for them that we have in English. Almost all of the pronunciation of Italian comes from the front of the mouth. With English, it's all over the place. It's really interesting. Excuse me. And then when you speak to an Italian that's learning English, you'll recognize that right away, which will do a few things. It's cool to be able to understand why things are the way they are. But you'll also be able to help them with their pronunciation of English at the same time. Another thing you'll learn about is the entire thought process. There's reasons why they say things the way they do. There's reasons why their language is structured the way they do. They actually view things differently than we view. Now, I will tell you this. I believe that people all over the world, I'm not talking about governments or politicians or people with all kinds of ulterior motives, just people. I believe people, for the most part, the majority of us, are the same inside. We have the same desires, the same ambitions, the same things that we want to accomplish in life. But how we view life is greatly affected by what I like to call, or what is called, our frame of reference, our culture, our physical settings, and yes, even our language. And Italians view everything differently than we do by nature, including time, and you'll learn more about that. You'll also learn about cultural do's and don'ts. For instance, the formal tense. Now I know that that's waning with the newer generation, but for me, I really appreciate learning about the formal versus the familiar, and when is appropriate for both. I enjoy that. It gives me further insight to the Italian culture, and then when I have an opportunity to go to Italy and I see this in place, it's really cool. It's like being in the inner circle, being in on something that a lot of Americans, they don't even recognize that it's there. The expressions. most expressions have roots somewhere. And this is true of Italian expressions as well. Expressions also delve deeper into how people think in their frame of reference and where they're coming from. Traditions. You'll learn about all kinds of Italian traditions. A lot of you already know about a lot of them, I know, because of your Italian ancestry. But you may not understand where they come from, and you'll get a glimpse of that as well. Modularity. You'll learn how Italian is a modular language. At some point in time, you'll be able to distinguish the meanings of some words simply because of the context of the language and the root that is in the word, even though you've never heard that word yourself, because it's a modularly structured language. Worldview. They see things totally different than we do. I strongly believe that travel and learning about other cultures is as much of an education, if not more of an education, than what we receive in schools. I gotta be honest with you, or hear on the news, the media. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that there is a big conspiracy theory, but my first time to Europe, I expected everyone to basically detest Americans. It's just not true. There's a bond between Italy and America, I found out, between many of the people. Not everyone, of course, but there's an abundance of it. And it's a wonderful relationship, one that I've had the opportunity to share with many Italian friends. And so much more. The least not being is you're going to have opportunity to meet people from Italy if you don't already have family or friends over there. I mean, if nothing else, just in your study. I mean, you have a lot of opportunities already. You have an opportunity for an Italian pen pal. You have opportunities to chat with Italians on Facebook. I know that Il Tavolo Italiano is not the only place online where you can study Italian. And I greatly appreciate you watching our videos. And I hope you participate in the Facebook page and the Facebook group. And I'm hoping the Facebook group becomes more and more dynamic. Sure, we have some participation now. But if you have a question about something in Italian, post it on the Facebook group page. We have many Italians that watch postings there. That's the only way that we're going to get a lot of interaction going, is when people start taking the first step and making use of our friends from Italy and them making use of us, which we would gladly welcome. It's exciting to be able to help someone from another country, and it's exciting to develop friendships where these people help us. Some of my best friends now live in Italy. I've developed relationships that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. They're very, very good friends, and I love them dearly. So, when you're studying Italian, take your time. Think about what it is that you're learning. Think about how cool some of the words are and how they sound. Take joy in the little things. Try to sound Italian when you're speaking by yourself. I know that I must sound ridiculously American to them, but nonetheless, I still like words that to me sound very Italian. Sounds kind of goofy, but for instance, even the word pomodoro, and we say tomato. I just think it's awesome. It doesn't take much to please me. I'm easy, okay? You could be that way too. Or when you discover, wow, once I learn this tense for verbs, then I actually have this tense down too. How cool. Or that's how they express that. Or you'll get a chuckle out of things that we have here in America that seem to be in vogue. People that feel like they're really in touch with the Italian culture, especially businesses. Like the panini sandwich. Really? Panini in Italian is sandwiches. So you're going to say, like the sandwich is sandwich. Not so much. You find out that those that think they're really in tune with European culture aren't really in tune after all. It's kind of interesting. It gives yourself an opportunity to chuckle. Not to mention beautiful Italian music of all sorts. It doesn't matter whether you like opera, the more traditional Italian songs, you know, Volare, etc. Or if you're into rock, jazz, even country western, there's an Italian equivalent out there. Some beautiful Italian movies. place. Having a greater understanding of that country is a beautiful thing to do. You know, there's more international landmarks and historical sites in Italy than any other nation in the world. How incredible is that, given the fact that geographically it's really a small country? And think about all the cultural achievements of Italy, with clothing, sports cars, food, music, art, literature, almost anything that has to do with culture. What a tremendous nation, and what a tremendous people. And the more you learn about the language, the farther you delve into your study of Italian, the more you have an understanding for all of those things as well. So sit back and enjoy the ride. And when those thoughts come up, I can't do this, I'm never going to learn it, remember, what's the hurry? I'm enjoying where I'm at. If you base all of your enjoyment, all of your satisfaction on the end goal, then I gotta warn you, you're gonna be really disappointed. Life just doesn't work that way. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And if you learn to enjoy the journey, you'll stick with it. You'll stay on the path, and you will accomplish your goal. Just think about your life, the past right now. Anything you've put a lot of time into, you've accomplished something there. People often do it with their work. They work all the time, and they've achieved a lot. They have a good career. Other people do it with their families, which, by the way, I highly recommend. And they achieve a lot there. They have great family relationships. Other people put themselves into their homes, their hobbies. And it doesn't have to just be one thing. Many people are good at more than one. But it doesn't come overnight. It comes as a result of consistently putting yourself into it, consistently availing yourself to what you need to do to progress along that path. So take joy in it, be passionate about it, and you there. So, we've been getting pretty far in this series. We don't have many more to go. Next video, I'm going to be sharing with you my recommendations for different things that can help you learn Italian. I'm going to get a little more into detail and a little more specific about a few books, a few CDs, a few movies, etc. that I would recommend that I think might help you greatly. Then we're going to be talking about when you need just a little bit more. And I'll tell you what that means when we get to that video. Spoiler alert. And then incorporating the study of Italian into your lifestyle. Very, very important video. If you don't watch any more of these videos after this one, I highly recommend that one. It's the key on how to squeeze enough time to get a sufficient amount of study time of Italian in. And then daring to dream. I can't tell you how important that is to me. Many, many people, even a few discouraging Italians to be honest, told me that Il Tavolo Italiano would never grow. That wasn't right for an American to teach Italian. But because of you, and because of a multitude of Italians that have helped me from across the pond, Il Tavolo Italiano has grown. And it's something that I'm amazed by, something that I'm humbled by. It was a dream, and it's still a dream, because I hope to make it even bigger and better for all those that wish to participate. And then finally, planning your adventure. And I think you'll be a little surprised at this video. It may not be about exactly what you're thinking. So having said all that, I just want to say thank you very much for studying with Il Tavolo Italiano. I greatly appreciate it. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I sincerely hope that I've been of some assistance to you. Maybe not everything I say applies to you, but hopefully you've been able to pick up a tip here and there that have helped you in your journey to study Italian. So, ciao, a presto, e benvenuti. If you want to subscribe, you simply click here and you'll get messages when my next videos come up. So I invite you to subscribe to Tavolo Italiano on YouTube. Also remember, you can find out more about El Tavolo Italiano at eltavoloitaliano.com. We have lessons posted there, opportunities for pen pals, some study helps, not produced by me, that you can purchase actually through Amazon, but the links are direct on El Tavolo Italiano, so you don't have to hunt through the entire Amazon site. Just a multitude of things. I also invite you to check us out on Facebook. And please feel free to give me a like if you wish. And become part of our Facebook group as well. And participate. Drive some good participation in there. Ask the hard questions about the things that you don't understand. Okay, ciao. Grazie mille e buona fortuna.